What's going on, everybody? Jack here, another episode of The Big and Bold. I want to give you a fantasy football update. Now, you can go pretty much anywhere to find, a list of the top 10 guys in fantasy at any given position for fantasy football this year. That's too easy, right? But what I want to give you is my favorite running back that's going to blow past his ADP this year. And yes, it is Breece Hall. He's currently the running back 22 if you look at his average draft position in fantasy drafts right now. And I would snag him while you can. That's averaging about around 4 in redraft. Obviously, he's the running back 1 in dynasty rookie drafts. He's one of the top picks in keeper leagues. But I want to make the case that he has RB1 upside this year as a rookie in redraft. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into why I like him so much. I'm not just telling you that he's a steal, but he is. But I want to give you my reasoning for why I think he's going to blow up past that running back 22 ADP and have that RB1 upside. So let's look at, who was the RB12 last year. That's kind of that cutoff for an RB1 in fantasy. And if you're going off of PPR leagues, it's Josh Jacobs at 12, according to Fantasy Pros. And you look at the year, he had 217 carries, 872 rushing yards, and 9 rushing touchdowns. He also had 53 receptions and 348 receiving yards. So the rushing touchdowns kind of pushed him up a little bit there. If you're looking at why he finished as the running back 12, not a bad finish. People don't give him much credit, but it's not a bad finish at all. But definitely touchdown dependent. And he had more receptions than we thought he was going to have this year as well. But that is the benchmark I'm looking at there, right? So technically, the way I see it, pushing that RB12 status this year, which can be a little different depending on the year, but roughly 1,100, 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns, 8 or 9 touchdowns, minimum of 40 receptions. Again, if you're talking PPR league, that bumps you up a little bit. That's kind of what we're looking at. I think that we can easily construct a narrative that Breece Hall is going to break those numbers this year. So looking at Breece Hall, the dude's an absolute stud. Coming into the draft, he came in at about 5'11", 215 pounds, ran a sub 4.40, came in at a 4.39. Pretty athletic guy, good size, compares to, Ezekiel Elliott, Jonathan Taylor. Like, he has that physical profile of other elite running backs in the NFL. And then you can look at his collegiate production. I mean, over 3,000 yards, averaged 5.7 yards per carry, and had 41 rushing touchdowns his last 2 years at Iowa State. So you've got the physical profile, you've got the collegiate production. That alone, that's why he was the number 1 running back drafted, which, if you look historically, being the first running back selected in the draft has been a good thing. You could look at Najee Harris. Before that, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who hasn't had a great career, but he still had 1,100 total yards his rookie season. Before that, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns on the ground as a rookie. Saquon Barkley, amazing rookie season. Leonard Fournette. Year before that, Ezekiel Elliott. Year before that, Todd Gurley. And then it falls off a little bit. You still have some studs as, the first backs taken in the draft. But you look at that recent history of running backs, the first back taken has been relevant for fantasy, their rookie year. Immediate impact players. So we know that Breece Hall is a stud, physically and with the collegiate profile of production. Jets moved up to the beginning of the second round to take him. They jumped the Houston Texans to ensure they landed him. Let's talk about that landing spot a little bit more. I think there's hesitation when you're talking Breece Hall because of Michael Carter. But we have to remember, Michael Carter, he's about 5'7", 200 pounds. He's smaller than Breece Hall. He ran a 4.5. His 10 and 20-yard splits were slower, just not nearly as physically impressive as Breece Hall. So I don't really understand the concern. Of course, Breece Hall is going to lose some carries, some receptions to Michael Carter, because that's just how it works, okay? Especially in today's NFL, unless it's, Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans, very rarely do you see someone dominate, and get all the work out of a backfield. There's only a select number of backfields out there where that's happening, and you have to, you can still get RB1 despite that. And regardless, you could look at Green Bay this past season. If you're looking at the RB11 in PPR scoring, you had Aaron Jones for Green Bay. But you know who led the league, or who led the team in carries, was A.J. Dillon. Okay, so, and you could even go over to standard scoring leagues. If you go over to standard scoring, Aaron Jones finishes their RB13, higher than A.J. Dillon still. So it's really about having those valuable touches. It's about getting receptions. It's about getting touchdowns. That's what I see Breece Hall getting. I see him getting goal line work. He's a very good receiver. As good a receiver as Michael Carter, possibly better. I don't think Michael Carter is a phenomenal receiving back. And he's on an ascending team. Like the future for the Jets, like what they believe their future will be, is Breece Hall and Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver. They've been acquiring pieces and adding to their offensive line. Like I get it, the Jets aren't very good. I totally get that. However, what matters for running backs is volume. It doesn't have to be a great team as long as you're getting volume. And I think that Breece Hall is guaranteed to get north of 250 touches. And conversely, you could go over to like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who landed with the best team in the NFL, coming off a Super Bowl victory, Kansas City Chiefs. He was way overvalued. He got overdrafted at that. And we thought, okay, well, nobody thought he'd be the first running back selected in the draft, but he was selected by the Chiefs, and so he got, really amped up as being this valuable fantasy option. When at the end of the day, he has had a very disappointing 2 years. Still fantasy relevant in his rookie season, but it's been a disappointing 2 years. With that said, I went over to the Jets backfield last season. I looked at how 2021 went for their running backs, and they dispersed the ball amongst three main rushers: Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman, and Ty Johnson. Those three guys combined for roughly 1,200 rushing yards, 300 carries, 6 rushing touchdowns, 700 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. You put that all together, that's an RB1. Now, I don't think Breece Hall is getting 300 touches, 300 carries, and 70 receptions. I don't, 80 receptions. I don't see that happen. But I do see him breaking 225 carries. I think the defense is going to be better for the Jets this year. I don't see them fussing with giving Ty Johnson his 60 carries, Tevin Coleman's 84 carries. No, I think that you're going to see Breece Hall break 200 carries at the very least. Michael Carter's probably going to break 100 carries on the year, depends on how run-heavy the team is. And it's not ridiculous at all to say that Breece Hall can hit 40 receptions, if not 50 or more. Just if you look at what Michael Carter did in a more limited capacity, I see them giving Breece Hall the ball more than they did Michael Carter last year. I see Zach Wilson still throwing the ball to the running back position this season as well. So there's a lot of good things going in the direction for Breece Hall this season, but you have to have a little bit of faith. That is true. You got to have a little bit of faith that Breece Hall is going to get the carries. I don't see why the Jets would utilize Michael Carter more than or on a similar level to that of Breece Hall. You look at Denver last season, Melvin Gordon had 203 carries. Javonte Williams had 203 carries. Despite the fact that we haven't seen Breece Hall on the field yet, I think we can make an assumption that he is the best running back on this team. He's going to get the bulk of the work. As long as he breaks 200 rushes and 30 to 40 receptions, he's going to destroy that RB22 ADP that he currently has. He might not finish as the RB10, RB12, but if you drafted him in the 4th round and you got a top 15 running back, I think that you're more than content with that finish. So for those reasons, I love Breece Hall. Of course, again, I said it earlier, he's the #1 running back off the board, #1 player off the board in rookie drafts. He's going very high in keeper leagues. I love selecting Breece Hall, especially if I go wide receiver early in my drafts. I'm grabbing a wide receiver in round 1 and 2. Maybe I grabbed a wide receiver, a running back, and a tight end, and I need an RB2. Breece Hall can be an RB2 for your team with RB1 upside for sure. He's being drafted as a low-end RB2. I think he'll finish as a high-end RB1. But with that said, that is my league winner. He's my favorite rookie in the draft this year, or from the draft this year. So watch out for Breece Hall. And again, this could all totally be wrong. I mean, you're talking about a rookie going to a bad team. So I get it. There's a lot of things that can happen there. But the way I see it, with the information in front of me, I believe he's got RB1 upside. I think he can help you win your league. I really do. Like, that gets thrown around a lot. But keep an eye out for more of these videos in the future. I'm going to drop one soon as well, talking about the wide receiver position, my favorite league winner there, a guy that's going to blow way past his ADP. So thanks for listening, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already.